Hey friends, happy Wednesday, hump day, right? And it is your friend Lisa Mason Ziegler, and so glad to be here to connect with you guys this week. And so if you are new here, the way this works is that I will do my best to try to answer your questions about flower farming or just grow and cut flowers in general, seed starting, even farm dogs. Seeing as how, I don't know if y'all can see him, Tucker is laying down here at my feet this week, and do my best to answer about business, whatever your questions are, and you just need to post your questions in that bubble down below with question mark in there. And that is so I don't miss your question by having to scroll through everybody's name. So what is happening? Well, friends, we haven't even just really even talked about this at all. But next week is open cart for Dave Dowling's course. And guess what? Dave and I are going to have a little special. And we're going to be doing several lives, and he's going to be doing Ask a Flower Farmer next week. And I just can't wait for us to be together next week. And I mean, Dave and I started farming at the same time, and we're we were like 4 hours apart, but we often frequented a lot of the same places anyway. I'm looking forward to spending time with Dave next week. And so if you are around, I suggest you drop in because we'll have some great offers for you. So friends, this week I'll be, let's see, today is Wednesday. Friday, we're having a big old cool flower roundup kind of on the shop and show on Friday. So I'll be highlighting the harvest this week. We just came off of, the rain wasn't so bad here on Sunday from the nor'eastern storm, or actually on Monday. But yesterday, Tuesday, we got more rain than we got over the weekend. It was quite damaging, actually. So I haven't really investigated a lot of it yet. But anyway, whatever we have, you're going to see it on Friday. And I hope you will join me there. So totally looking forward to doing that. So I see we have some questions down here. So let's see what's on y'all's mind today. Little Daisy Flower Garden. When using netting, what height do you set above the ground? So it's really about how tall, you need to know what the mature height of a plant is. Let's just say, for instance, zinnias. For us, zinnias get pretty dadgum tall, usually between 36 and 48 inches. So we place the netting at the halfway mark to maturity. So if it's a 30-inch tall flower, then you would put the netting at the 15-inch mark. And you do that before the plants actually reach 15 inches, right? So that way they grow up through it. You're not trying to wrestle and get the stems to come up through it because they're already too tall. I just cannot tell you, and I keep teaching myself this lesson year after year. Doing the steps in a timely fashion save you so much time, so much money, and so many flowers. So I hope that helps you. The netting should be at the 50% of the maturity height. And I just also want to recommend again, because I am seeing so much incorrectly installed netting on social media. Your netting should not be hanging off the sides. Like if this is your bed plateau, this is the netting up here. Your netting should not be hanging loose off the sides because you bought, just like I do, I buy 36-inch wide netting, which is what we sell, but my beds are only 30 inches. So that means that whenever I install it new, I have to cut that edge off, and that's just the way it is. That netting not only is a trap for people, but it's a trap for wildlife, and netting should be taut, not loose. And that's what also makes it hard to harvest through when it's loose. Anyway, I could go on and on, but let's see what else y'all got here. I'm in the dreaded June gap. What flowers should I plant next year to avoid that? Zone 6B. So I 100% know exactly what you're talking about. I used to suffer from the same thing. And I tell you, first off, hands down, You have got to start succession planting sunflowers every single week and growing them small so that they can be the perfect focal flowers, whether it's for your commercial customers or for your bouquets. And then you need to plant tons of cool flowers. Cool flowers, the lion's share of cool flowers is awesome filler, right? I mean, filler is what it is all about. And I mean, right now I've left, and you'll see them on Friday, there are so many filler flowers in high bloom right now with cool flowers. So that can solve your problem, particularly if you're growing pro cuts and you grow 2 or 3 of the different colors and you keep them that small size. You can make them look totally different from week to week. And simply succession planting sunflowers and getting your cool flowers in the ground will totally change that. We started the early bird sunflower plantings, which you can learn more about on my YouTube channel. If you go back and look at March, that's when we started doing them. When I learned about how to do early bird sunflower transplants, which meant I had sunflowers before Mother's Day, and then from that point on, I have sunflowers every single week, and you can fill that gap with what you're talking about. So cool flowers, there's a lot of stuff in 6B that can be fall planted. Your 6B is only a nanosecond above 7, and almost all cool flowers are winter hardy in zone 7. So you have a lot to fall plant. Then you can follow that up with very early spring plantings, which spreads out the bloom. But we are our poppies are still blooming down here. It's just crazy. So I hope that helps you. Let's see, when should I start ordering seeds to plant in the garden for overwinter? So if you're talking about, well, here's what our practice is as commercial growers, and we totally recommend for home gardeners to do the very same thing. During the pandemic, as all that trouble getting everything happen, more home gardeners started doing what flower farmers do. When I see a flower blooming, like all the cool flowers that are blooming now, you should be buying that seed now. When you store them properly, we have a great article over on our website, thegardenersworkshop.com, under the resources, the Field and Garden blog that Rhonda wrote last year or the year before. It's called Storing Seeds Longer. And it's the simple steps to buy seeds, store them properly, and they're good for several years, most often. And so you buy seeds when you see the blooms. It's not time for you to plant them. Then you put the seeds in what I call your seed vault. That's just whatever you store seeds in. I happen to have a whole refrigerator full. And I store the cool season seeds together and the warm season seeds together. So when it's warm season, seed starting time, I just bring out that whole container. So buy them as you learn about them, read about them, see them in a magazine, see me show them to you. That's what the show on Friday is all about. So I recommend that you check that out. You can download our app from at your phone's app store, and search Gardener's Workshop, download it, and meet me there Friday, 12 noon Eastern time, and we'll talk about that. Morning from Oregon, Lisa. Boo plurum, ? My fall planted, I thought, looked great, wonderful height. However, the stems seem to look a bit sparse. Do you have some you can show everyone? So I'm here at no, I don't. There is some home on the farm. Actually, if you watched last week's live show inside the app, and so here's a great little hack. If you go inside the app, all the videos are across the top. You can scroll through and pick which one. Go to last week's. When you hit it to start, a bar will come up on the bottom and say Shop All. Hit Shop All. And that brings up the products that I talked about in the show. If you scroll over to Buplurum, when you hit that, it'll go right to the video part where I show the Buplurum. How's that for a gold nugget of the day, right? So you can check that out. What you may want to think about is, did you thin it properly? If it was way too close together and the soil wasn't quite happy, it wasn't happy in the soil that you planted it in, it can make it look a little sparse. But anyway, I would check that out. Hi, spacing for my pink perennial Josephia Field Grown Zone 5B, Massachusetts. I cannot offer you any advice on that. That is a perennial. I've never grown it. So I have no idea. I would guess as a general go-to for me, particularly because you're in the north, which means you don't have as long a growing season as we do, most perennials are 12 inches as a general rule. That's not for all of them. But if nobody can tell you, I would just search engine what you've just asked me here. My pink perennial field grown, and see what that says. But I've never grown the perennial baby's breath at all. Porridge garden. Do you recommend starting snapdragons from seed this time of the year, zone 7B, or are growers better off ordering plugs from ball? Okay, there's a lot of questions there. Number one, I do recommend starting your own snapdragons from seed. It is fairly easy. We do it in soil. It's in fact the very first seed I ever started 28 years ago. But it is not the correct time of the year to start and plant snapdragons. They're a cool season hardy annual, and it is just way too warm. Even, if you live in a really northern, well, you said 7B, so you're not in the north. And I want to say that we'll be launching, not next week, but probably the week after next, my new book. And I will tell you that new book is going to clear the cloud, y'all. That book is really going to show you, I share my steps on how to figure out this exact question. It's like, when do I plant this or that? What is that journey that you won't ever have that question again, okay? So it's not the proper time. They're cool season hardy annuals is the first thing you need to know. And it's not cool season now, right? So you in 7B can definitely I recommend that you fall plant snapdragons. Those are just the top quality, most abundance, tallest stems, most disease and pest resistant. So you need to be starting those snapdragon seeds in, late summer to be able to plant a transplant that's about this big 6 to 8 weeks before your first fall frost. And you need to figure out all of that. And my book, Cool Flowers, kind of shares that with you. And there's nothing wrong with ordering plugs, but snapdragons are not one that I would think that would be at the top of my list to order. Let's see. What are some green filler plants that are cool season and warm season that you recommend? I'm in zone 5B. So green, our green for cool flowers, and you can even fall plant bupleurum. Bupleurum is hands down a cash cow for that very reason. Fall planted, and then we start succession planting it again in very early spring. The very early spring stuff might be for you, though, because you're more north. Isn't as big and robust as the fall planted, but it is still good enough. And that is something that I would plant every single couple of weeks up until, it is a cool season hardy annual. But if you're like this year, if we'd had succession planted, we would still be harvesting killer bupleurum this year because we've had like this long spring, right? So bupleurum is one, bells of Ireland is another one. Just thinking, Cerinthe, which we loved using that before it even bloomed as a filler. Warm season, Miss Burns, lemon basil, cinnamon basil. Then I use other things. So we have a lot of solidago, which is a native where I am. I call it the brute. It's very aggressive, but I cut it into submission every year because we cut it long before it blooms. We cut it when the head is big, but long before it's going to turn yellow because it holds up beautifully. So hopefully that'll give you some ideas. Cultivating the heart. Do you pinch all warm season flowers? No. Maybe some examples of what you do pinch. And is it all plants or half? So my standard operating procedure my basic recommendation and what I try to follow, which notice I said try, is to pinch any branching annual. That means it's not a single stem. What is a single stem? Single stem sunflowers wouldn't get pinched. Single stem coxcombs. There are coxcombs that are both single and branching. So you have to know what you're growing. You have to have some information. So I would recommend pinching any branching annual, and pinching 50% gives me the best of both worlds. Pinching means that those pinched plants will begin branching earlier, but the unpinched plants are going to bloom earlier. So while these guys are blooming and giving me actual flowers over here, the ones that were pinched are giving me 3 to 4 times the number of stems. So, I mean, it's like you can plant half as many plants when you pinch. You know, so you have to really get on your pinching game. I like to pinch because we're soil blockers. We love pinching in the tray. I've not done it with cell packs. We love pinching in the tray. You either pinch in the tray and wait 7 to 10 days to plant them. They need to recover before you plant them. Or plant them, wait 7 to 10 days after they've gotten over you planting them, then pinch them. But it's a whole lot easier to pinch in the tray. Chris, best stage to harvest sapinaria, thanks. So we just did sapinaria images when about 1 to 2/3 of the blooms are open. It holds up pretty well. So it's kind of like feverfew. I have figured out how to harvest feverfew as early as possible because I grow so much of it. It all seems to bloom at the same time, so you got to figure out how to start it earlier. Sapinaria is the same way. Early morning, after you've cut it at the proper stage, get it inside. You know, that's a bucket. After I filled a bucket, I would just carry that bucket indoors and set it down in that dark, air-conditioned big building we have that nobody's in there, and just let it. It doesn't have to fight the heat and humidity after I just literally cut its throat, right? That's what you do when you cut a flower. You literally cut its throat. You cut off all of its food, all of its hormones, everything. So putting it in a cool, dark room is good for all of us after we've had that kind of treatment, right? So there you go. Brooke, thank you for hosting this. 7A here and limited bed space. What are your go-to cool flowers for fall? Oh, Brooke, I can't even begin to tell you. It would probably depend on what it is I was doing with those flowers. I mean, is this home garden, or are you doing 10 bouquet subscriptions, or, what exactly are you doing? Because first off, you could trim it down by saying, I'm only going to grow 1 feverfew. I grow 6. 1 snapdragon, well, maybe not 1 snapdragon. This is a perfect case where I would highly recommend that you grow our special mix, the TGW Dragon Mix, which comes in pink shades, yellow shades, white shades, and sunset shades, because we've mixed from all the different groups and all the different shades. So you can buy the TGW pink, and it has up to 13 different varieties and shades, so they bloom longer. So that way you can plant snaps one time in the fall and have them bloom out at a little bit different window. So that's what I would do, is pick. I have no idea what limited bed space is. Is that 5 feet or 50 feet? It depends. That's all relative, right? But I would say to pick different flowers and pick one variety and just plant a small amount of it. I was actually writing the captions yesterday for some images for the book, and one of the images was showing the demonstration raised beds. I have 2 16 by 3 raised beds. They're 18 inches tall. Pretty beautiful, I might add. You can see those if you come to our open farm June 24th. Put it on your radar, y'all. We have people, if you go to the gardenersworkshop.com, I think it's /open farm. no spaces. All the details are there. There's a Hampton Inn. We're in the middle of the city. There's lots of places to stay. We have people coming from all over. It's pretty humbling for people to come to my little teeny flower farm. And Bobo and I are planting up a storm with Andrew's help, and we'd love to have you come to see those beds. Anyway, I was looking at those 16-foot beds. 16 feet, I have like 5 to 8 different types of flowers in there. So I have a nice chunk of one flower. So I don't know if that helps you at all. But it's really hard to not know, some snaps, some filler stuff, bells, bupleurum, campanula. There's just so many beautiful ones. So I hope that helped you, Brooke, somehow. I'm sure it pretty much, it's just really hard. And it's kind of like writing a book. It's like, you just can't imagine how much there's not room for. You have to start, all right, cutting that. We had to cut, actually, and I'll tell you all this, when we do launch the book. For people that purchase their book directly from us, I am making a special resource that will come with your book, and it's the flowers that didn't make the book. Because there just wasn't room. There's only 224 pages, 225 images, 54,000 words. So that sounds like a lot, but it is not a lot when you start lining up the stuff. So you just have to really think, what do I want to do this time, and plan it. And then the next year, maybe you'll have more space, or you can try something different. Hi, what are your top favorite fall sown hardy annual flowers? I'm in 6B. Thank you for all this wonderful information. So I think we just kind of pretty much just answered that they're all my favorites. And I'm getting new ones. There will be new cool flowers. Well, new flowers that I call cool flowers. New flowers to me in the book. And y'all, and there's like 6 that didn't even make 6 or 7. I have to go count. Anyway, I'm learning more and more because they all have a purpose. They all have a use, depending on what you're doing with your flowers, right? If you're going to market, if you're selling to florist, holy cow, what do they love? Filler. They can, there's just so many opportunities. So I think I just probably answered that in my previous question. My Gomphrena keeps producing blooms at 3 inches tall, 6-inch spacing, let them bloom, mature, or pinch. This is, I don't know where you are, but our first I call them my first recipe, which is the first lineup of all the first succession planting, all the different flowers and what colors I grow them in. They had a tough time this year. Spring was so screwed up on our farm. Actually, I'll tell you this too. So as I was writing another caption for a really beautiful picture, 2 photographers for the book, my Bob, who did Vegetables Love Flowers, and then my sister, here we had to take some flat pictures when Bob wasn't available. And one of the pictures is of the cool flower garden blooming, and it's not netted. The biggest, most gorgeous snapdragons you've ever seen, and there's not a net in sight. And why is that? Because we had that month of spring in early March, but then it got cold again, and I couldn't really net yet because we had to cover them back up. And then when we uncovered, things went crazy, and I just didn't get them netted. And our warm season stuff just suffered. And so I would say to you, pinch them and just let them grow. And start them again. Our second succession of Gomphrena looks so much better than our first one. We ditched the first one. And the second ones will be looking pretty awesome. So start them again, but pinch them and just see what happens. Once it heats up, they'll be fine. Pepper pot flowers. How do you store your cut snaps? How long do they last in the cooler? Are they affected by ethylene and open a different color? Yes, yes, and yes. So part of my method of madness that I teach in flower farming school and was the real basis of why we were so dadgum successful. It's not that I had the answer to all your questions. It's that I prevented I've eliminated having to deal with them. So by doing that, I mean that we had big outlets for our flowers at the first of the week and big outlets for our flowers at the end of the week, which meant we never sat on flowers. So snaps are ethylene sensitive, and yes, they lose their color. They'll misfire and drop their buds because of ethylene, and they gas themselves. So just putting them in the cooler with a bunch of other flowers can really cause a problem, right? So yes, snaps can definitely go in the cooler, but you have to take steps. We basically cut on Monday, delivered on Tuesday, cut on Thursday, sold and delivered on Friday, and then at market Saturday. So we eliminated my phone. You can see if I'm still live. So you would try to prevent from having to store snaps. You definitely need to use holding solution. Pause due to poor connection. Sorry, y'all. Something's happened. My internet looks five cones, although I did just see 2 Cox trucks drive by. That's the answer to that question. And it depends on the state of your cooler as to how long they would last. And we, as I mentioned, we just do our best to not have to. Well, friends, my internet is apparently going in and out, so sorry about that. Meet me on Friday inside the Gardener's Works week, and until we meet again, and remember, keep your eyes peeled for me and Dave next week. It's going to be a great week. I can't wait to talk to my buddy. It's been a little while for us. So thank you guys so much. Please give us a like and follow if you're enjoying these. Share them with your friends and let them know to join us here on Wednesdays. And next week, Dave Dowling will be doing Ask a Flower Farmer. So thank you guys so much for coming. Till we meet again. Ciao.